This is the IZIP E3 Peak Plus. One of my favorite bikes in the line. It's really been upgraded this year to include the Bosch center drive, one of my all-time favorite motors. They've also added rear rack bosses, so you can use this to commute if you want. You know, I'm in the position where I don't have a lot of space or a lot of extra money, and I like to commute to work, but I also want to hit the trails on the weekend. Sometimes I take my commute on just an adventurous route, and I'll cut across like a dirt trail or whatever. So I want to be able to handle that, and the suspension fork on this is more than capable. It's an air fork, SR Suntour XCR, a little bit lighter, has boost, which means that instead of 100 millimeter axle, it's 110, so it's a little bit wider to accommodate these plus size tires. So 650B, 27.5 diameter by 2.8 width right here. So, you know, they look a little bit fatter. They're gonna have more air in them. They just give you cushion, they give you traction, so you can travel over different terrain. Of course, a little bit of extra weight, a little bit of extra drag from this type of tire, but they're becoming very popular, especially with electric bikes, because you have assist. You know, this is a very capable motor, high capacity battery. It really doesn't matter so much to have those extra tires, and it just makes it look cool, right? Like, they do have 3-inch tires and even 4-inch tires, but then it's really big and you lose some of the nimble handling. So I feel like this is just perfect. 120 millimeter travel on the fork. We've got a compression clicker with almost lockout. It says lock, but you know, there's a little bit of give there just to preserve some of the internals. And then we've got a rebound adjustment at the base there. Through axle, really stiff, solid, quick release. And then the boost on the rear also has quick release. So instead of 142 width, it's 148, 6 millimeters of extra width to accommodate those wider rims, the wider tires. These are Kenda Havoc, and they say max air pressure 25 PSI, which for someone coming from like a hybrid bicycle or road bike, you're like 25, you're used to like 65, even 85 PSI. There's just a lower air pressure there, and that's gonna give you some of the cushion. Again, that's max, so you could lower these if you wanted from there and just get a little bit of a floatier feel and maybe better traction or float over soft terrain. Really appreciate that. This frame is custom engineered to be for an electric bike, okay? And they've really gone the extra length to choose like components that match, and also the tire size I was talking about earlier, the wheel size, but they've custom engineered a yoke as well. So you can see that this is just a curved separate piece of aluminum here that's welded to the back chainstay instead of bending them, because they can't bend too far or it compromises the strength of the frame, and in so doing they would have to extend this rear chainstay, which makes for an overall longer bike, which isn't quite as nimble and fun. And you know, like, I guess for, you know, there are these different tire size standards. It used to be like 26-inch, and then it was like 29ers, and now it's like 27.5, kind of in the middle, and it gives you a little bit of that kind of quick turning that's fun, while still giving you the momentum and the kind of the gap spanning is how I like to describe it. You know, a little bit wider diameter means that you can just float over cracks and bumps instead of falling into them. But you still want to be able to turn quickly, and again, bringing the frame in, making it a little bit shorter. It's just interesting. I was talking to a product manager named Kurt about this earlier, and this is just a really cool bike. Like, for real, I'm very excited about it. I like the look of it too. It's kind of a matte black with gloss black accents, a little bit of gray going on. Goes right into the fork, the saddle. This is IZIP branded, but it's actually a Velo Race. 31.6 millimeter diameter on this aluminum alloy seat post. So if you wanted to, if you're someone like me who's a little bit sensitive, yeah, you've already got a suspension fork up front, but this isn't a full suspension bike. And if you're riding faster at like the 20 mile per hour top speed, and you're going through the city and going off curbs and bumps and stuff, it can still get to you. This is a little bit more aggressive. It's not a super long stem, and they do have these 4 or 5 millimeter risers here, but it's a flat bar, so you're a little bit more forward, and my neck and back feel that. So that's where I usually get like a body float or a thud buster or something in there, just to kind of, even Suntour, they have like their NCX suspension seat post, pretty good option, and that would work on this pretty well. I think that would be a great fit. Speaking of fit, this does come in 2 frame sizes, so I'm looking at the medium here. It's 17 inches. They also have a 19-inch frame size, and both of them have this really great sloped top tube, so it's going to lower the standover height significantly versus if it was just straight or, you know, partially angled. I feel like that's a great, it's just nice to see, and I appreciate it, being someone who keeps their seat really, really high at times to pedal and get that full leg extension, but then you might have to hop off in a jiffy and you might be on mountainous terrain on the weekends or whatever. It's great to have. The Bosch battery pack is great, but not perfect, because you actually have to unclip it and pull up, and there's not a whole lot of room there. So I feel like they just barely squeezed it in there. Of course, no room for bottle cages or anything like that. Again, I was talking to Kurt, and he's like, well, you could put them up here, but you don't want to compromise the frame integrity, or if you hop off, you don't want to collide there and, you know, get injured. You can add your own saddle rail adapter and have a bottle cage right here if you want. And then, of course, with a rack, you could have panniers or a trunk bag. I feel like they've done a good job. Even with the touch points here, I don't know what brand these are, but these are awesome pedals. Aluminum alloy, and they have adjustable set screws so you can lower them or raise them depending on how much traction you want to get. I frequently just ride with my tennis shoes, and you can see that they're kind of flat on the bottom, constantly walking around doing reviews and having pedals like this that I'm not going to have to slip off of, especially if I'm commuting to work or something and it's wet outside. One thing that you might be hard pressed to fit on here are fenders. There is a threaded eyelet at the top of the suspension there, but it's just, you know, a lot of times on Amazon you can see these little plastic things you can add, just kind of a mud guard. The battery, the motor, everything's pretty well sealed against water. They've gone minimal here with like the motor cover. It's kind of naked, but there's an awesome like aluminum alloy skid plate on the bottom, vented. Just think that's super cool and just so compact. This is the Bosch Performance Line CX high torque motor, 75 Newton meter peak output, compared to the generic Performance Line, which is only 63 Newton meters. So this is all about performance, torque, climbing. It's not going to get quite as good of range depending on what level of assist you're in, but you're still going to get a great range, especially because it's a mid-drive. You can switch gears and really optimize motor performance. So anyway, yeah, just a close-up of that. And then this awesome motor plug that they've got going on. See, it's sort of ribbed and, you know, fits way back in there. It's going to keep water out. You can charge the battery on or off the bike, and the charger is awesome. I don't have one with me, but it's only like 1.7, 1.8 pounds, and it's a 4 amp charger. So 4 amps, that's double the normal chargers. They're like 2 amps, so it's going to fill this a lot faster. It's not really large. You can put it in your backpack and take it along with you. First half of the battery tends to charge way faster than the second half because it doesn't have to worry about balancing the cells and everything. It's just like fill her up. I appreciate that. Also, this is the Powerpack 400. We're starting to see Powerpack 500, and they only weigh like 0.4 pounds more. So this is like 5.4 pounds total. When I took it off, weighed it earlier. By the way, it can be charged off the bike. You don't have to leave it on. In fact, I'm going to attempt to take it off. See, I just used the key, ABUS locking core, high quality stuff. It's got that handle, so you're not as likely to drop it. See, 36 volts, 11 amp hours. There's the charging port at the base. Same thing right there with that rubber cover we were looking at earlier. And that's nice. Some of the other bikes are requiring that you have like a separate dongle thing. There we go. Make sure it's clipped in. They have a separate dongle you have to take along with you. This is just much simpler, and you don't have to leave the keys in. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off so they aren't rattling during our ride test. So anyway, good stuff. Here's the other side of the motor. So you can see the metal blades and stuff. There's just not as much plastic here. This is an 18-tooth chainring at the front, and it's got the narrow, wide teeth, which really grab onto the chain so you don't have as much slipping happening. You've got a little bit of a, almost like a guide or a bash guard here, this aluminum alloy piece. It's punched out so it's not maybe as heavy, and your pants should slough right over this. Depending on the terrain that you're on, you could get a lot of mud in there and then start to get chain suck. I've heard that from some of the more hardcore riders in the UK who go out on really wet days. But this is Shimano Deore, pretty good derailleur, 11 to 40 tooth, great range, 10 sprockets, you know, great equipment. Nice rubber slap guard here, high quality. It's not just a sticker. And then we've got the Shimano Deore, I think it's Dynasys. So you see the button here? It can go forward or back, depending on what your preference is. Whoops, did it one too many times. Just kind of neat. Some people prefer one way over the other, and you get both with this. Locking flat rubber grips, probably from Velo. And then these brakes, these are another really great highlight. This is a Slate T4 2-finger textured levers, adjustable reach. They're hydraulic 180 millimeter discs. So check that out. Really great, front and rear. This is a company I wasn't as familiar with, but apparently they do a lot of cyclocross stuff. They seem to be working really well. I was testing them on the Sumo from IZIP earlier, and they're 4-piston front and rear. So you get a little bit, I would think, more consistent braking, and it's not like gonna pivot forward and backwards. They might even be longer brake pads. I'm not an expert, and I welcome you to chime in on this. People just kind of give me the marketing hype of like, oh yeah, 4-piston instead of 2, and I'm like, okay, cool, that must mean better. They certainly work great, like I was saying, getting a ride earlier on them, and just follows the whole like upgraded feel of this bike. The older Peaks were great, but some of them were like higher speed, like up to 28 miles per hour, and then that's class 3, and you can't use it on a lot of the trails. So this is class 1, 350 watt pedal assist, and it should be allowed, especially here in California on more of the trails. It's adhering to all the safety standards and everything. No throttle or anything. What was I looking at? We were down here a second ago, and I just wanted to point out this down tube. Look at it. They've even kind of custom designed it to fit beautifully with the battery pack, and then this little cup at the base. It helps it blend in. You know, the wires, the battery pack, the motor, the spokes, the rims, everything's black. And I just think this bike looks so cool as a result. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's probably my favorite in the whole lineup. You are paying a little bit more because it has those nicer components, $3,099. IZIP has a 2-year comprehensive warranty, and they might do like lifetime on the frame. They have a network of dealers, so you should be able to get set up with this thing, take a test ride, figure out exactly which frame size you want. I have measured standover height, reach, overall length, some of those other dimensions that I care about, just to try to help you figure it out. But I only have access to this medium bike, so that's kind of what you get back at the site. Let's hop on this thing and take it for a spin after I show you the display panel. This thing is removable, but this one's locked too. Like, a lot of these bikes are used for demo purposes, and so they put this set screw in the bottom, which you can do too if you want. It's like right in there so that you can't slide it off. But normally you can take that display right off, and that's excellent for commuting. Remember, this could be a multi-purpose bike. You could have that rack, you could take it into work, and it's just really rugged and cool looking. Take the battery off and charge it while you're working, take the display off so no one scratches it or anything. When you're ready to turn it on, you just press that power button. It's really big. This is backlit. You can see the battery level up top, 5 bars, so 20% increments, speed in miles per hour. And then down here you get a bunch of trip stats. So if we press the I button, you can go from trip time to range. I'm gonna come back to that. Odometer, trip distance, clock, max speed, average speed. Now we're back at range. That I button is sort of replicated over here near the grip, so you can cycle through while you're riding without taking your hand off. And then you've got plus and minus, and that changes the level of assist, of which there are 4 levels: Eco, Tour, Sport, and Turbo. So Eco's the lowest. It's gonna get you the most range. It's not especially powerful, but it takes the edge off the weight. Like, this is 51.7 pounds for this bike. That's how much it weighed. Checked it earlier. Pretty good, in my opinion. That's not bad because of the air fork, because it's a hardtail. But you know, it's still, that weight gets to you a little bit when you're riding. So let's go up to Eco, and it estimates 61 miles. And this battery isn't even completely full. So, you know, 60 plus miles, that's a long way to go, even with the 400 watt hour pack. So you could potentially upgrade someday to the 500 watt hour pack from Bosch. They should be very easy to find, and go even further than that. And then if we arrow up to Tour, it says 31 miles per hour, range. Big drop there. Sport, 23, and Turbo, 19. So it calculates that dynamically based on the battery capacity, but also how you've been riding over the past 5 miles. It's a really great system. And again, it just measures the wheel speed in the rear, the pedal cadence, and the pedal torque. So when you're shifting, not only does it have like a shift detection that eases off on the motor, but if you purposefully pedal a little slower, a little less force, it's not going to put that strain onto the chain and onto those cogs and onto the derailleur. It's just awesome. And it has a higher cadence because this front sprocket is smaller. It rotates like 2 times for every single pedal revolution. this allows it to start and stop faster, but you do hear a bit of an electronic whine, which I'll try to produce later when we're doing the ride test. So I feel like you've got a good feel for this display. You see there's a light button here. This bike doesn't have lights built into it, but a lot of shops will wire lights in off that Bosch battery. I mean, Bosch is used on a lot of electric bikes, and so I think most shops are pretty familiar, and by building the lights into the bike, you don't have to worry about charging them separately or leaving them on accidentally or having someone steal them. Someone could still steal them, but they'd break them in the process, which kind of defeats the purpose. And back to that Boss up here, you can mount a light like right there onto the suspension fork. If you add a rack, just be thoughtful about where you put the light. If you end up mounting it here and then you have a saddlebag, well, it's going to block the light. So just, keep that in mind. Want it to actually keep you safe. I think that's about it. And then reset, that clears the menus. I'm going to hop on this thing and pedal around and switch gears and stuff. And look at this side of the bike. You see most of the cables are beautifully run along to the hydraulic disc brakes. A little bit more accessible, but a couple of them are internally routed as well. Okay, let's do a start-stop test. (17, 18, 20 miles per hour. So there we go. That's top speed that we're looking at right there. Bike feels really stable. I noticed that the fork was maybe a little bit more angled out. Start with the suspension locked out. There's our max speed. This should give you a bird's eye view of the chainring, and you can watch it spin, again, about 2 times for every pedal rotation. See how quickly it starts and stops, and then back here you can see what it sounds like, what it looks like to shift. I don't think this thing is perfectly tuned. It is a demo bike, and I noticed there was a little bit of like ticking going on, but it's working. Brakes are working just fine. I'm gonna do some shifting. Start off in a lower gear. Still a little bit of banging happening there, but less than on some of the other mid-drive systems. And that's where a lot of the cost is coming from. You might be able to find a bike that's 500 or 1,000 cheaper, but from what I hear from shops and stuff, Bosch system holds up pretty well, and it's just a little bit smarter. And I think it looks cool. Well, that is the new IZIP E3 Peak Plus, because it's got those plus size tires. For the full write-up on this with all the extra specs, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. As always, chime in the comments. Feel free to correct me if I got something wrong or elaborate on what I've shared. I feel like this is going to be a popular bike. I appreciate that it's available in more places, and then it's got those 2 frame sizes. Have fun on it, but it is all black, so ride safe.